Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And I should have probably talked about this a few days ago, but Formula E and for final races in Seoul in South Korea. Some pretty damn exciting stuff as usual from the electric single-seater series. And Stoffel Vandoorne is your champion. And I will be reacting to my Formula E predictions for this season at some point this week, so make sure you subscribe to the channel because you can see how wrong I am. And I was very wrong. And once again, the champion I chose didn't finish anywhere near first, which makes it 2 years, 3 years, every video I do, every prediction video. If I say you're going to be champion, you're pretty much going to be finishing last. Anyway, Seoul. It was some very good action. It was always going to be a tough task for anyone to beat Stoffel Vandoorne in the series. Mitch Evans, after the disappointment in London, breaking down in the second race. He was a big chunk behind him, but could still mathematically drag it to the last race. Mortara could still win, but he needed miracles. And I think Jon-Erik Vergne could win, but he needed everyone else to crash and to him to win both races. And Mitch Evans did his job. He finished first in the first race, pretty comfortably as well. He drove really well. And Stoffel Vandoorne was fourth or fifth, I can't remember now. But it gave him enough of a gap that Mitch Evans had to win, and I think Vandoorne had to be like fourth or fifth or something for Mitch Evans to win the championship. First race, Mortara hit Vergne and got a puncture, and basically any chance he had was gone, and Vergne only finished sixth, so he had no chance. So that was how the title race looked after the first race. The first race actually started with a lot of chaos because about 10 cars went straight into a barrier and brought out the red flag, and we lost about a quarter of the field, which did make it somewhat less exciting, but it was a good race. I still enjoyed it. Second race of the day. Who is it? Eduardo Mortara. He won that race pretty comfortably as well, to be honest. Shout out to Jake Dennis, though, who has been driving fantastically for the last 4 races or so, and really all season. He actually finished 6th in the championship, which is a really good result. I hate to say it, I probably underestimated Jake Dennis last year, and this year as well. And he's actually a pretty fantastic racing driver, and I hope he gets to keep his seat in Formula E next year. Although I don't think anything's been announced for him yet. And there has been announcements for next year. Stoffel Vandoorne finished second anyway, so he won the championship pretty easily in the end. I think Mitch Evans started at 13th and climbed up to like 7th. He was 7th. So it wasn't really even close in the end. So Mercedes, for the second year in a row, win the driver's title with a different driver this time. And they also won the team's championship. And I suppose it's fitting because Mercedes are leaving. That's it for Formula E for them. They're done. They're not the only ones. Alexander Sims had his last race, and it's not been an amazing season for Alexander Sims. But he was someone who, again, I probably didn't have high thoughts of, and he has done quite well in Formula E. As well as Andre Lotterer, who is probably the opposite, someone I thought very highly of and has never really had much success at this level. It's his last year. He's going to the Porsche hypercar project. Leaves a gap in the Porsche team, which has been filled by Antonio Felix da Costa, who has left the Cheetah. DS have also left the Cheetah and gone to Dragon. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Cheetah team. Also returning to the grid is the At Sports line, this time without Audi. They're going to be interesting to see what they do. And Maserati are there as well. They're taking over from Venturi, or they're forming a partnership with Venturi. They're going to be on the grid. And we've already seen some drivers change places as well. Lucas Di Grassi has gone to Mahindra. Sebastian Buemi has gone to Envision with Nick Cassidy, so I don't know what's happening with Robin Freins. He might not be back. Big changes for next year. I'm sort of expecting Maserati to announce Eduardo Mortara and maybe Stoffel Vandoorne, because I'd like to see Vandoorne stay on the grid and defend his championship, and I think Mortara is too good to lose. So it'll be interesting to see what Maserati do. That's the pair I would go for. I'm sure Oliver Turvey will be back with Neo for some reason. He just seems to be there. He's one of the most experienced Formula E drivers. And we have had 100 races now. Only Lucas Di Grassi has taken part in all 100 races, because Sam Bird unfortunately wasn't at this race in Seoul. He broke his wrist in London, and he was replaced by Norman Nato. We also had a debut for Sasha Fenestraz, who stood in for Antonio Giovinazzi for the last race. Neither of them did anything, but they're both good drivers, and I wouldn't mind seeing them back in Formula E next year at some, or any time really. Sasha Fenestraz is a really good driver. He raced in Super Formula in Japan. He's always done really well. I think he'd look great on a Formula E grid. But 100 races, Formula E is honestly one of the best. It's one of the most fun racing series to watch. There's always a lot of things happening. It's a bit gimmicky. I don't necessarily like attack mode and all that sort of stuff. But the racing is usually really, really good. You get a bit of contact here and there. The cars race very close together. One team never really has a massive advantage over anyone else, so it's all really close. You can never really guess a champion, which if you've ever watched my prediction videos, you'll know I really can't. But this season was also... It's just another fantastic season of Formula E racing. They're not the best looking cars in the world. I don't necessarily like how Formula E cars look, but they do race well. And next year we're going to have new cars. It's Gen 3. We've got new teams. I think it's going to be a real big shake up on the grid. Next year it's going to be really, really exciting to watch. I think a very different calendar as well. More races. I think it's going to be 18 next year. I'm very, very excited. There were two big controversies to come out of Seoul, and I say big controversies, they're not really that big. But Pascal Wehrlein and Nick de Vries made contact in race 2. It was a clumsy move from Nick de Vries, the outgoing champion, who has not really had a great year. And Pascal Wehrlein called him out and said he should not be racing in Formula 1. He said something a lot ruder actually, but it's along those lines. Nick de Vries has been linked with the Williams seat. I think he's good enough for it, but I think they'll go Logan Sargent. They seem very high on the American at the moment, but it's sort of a shame that Nick de Vries never got a drive in Formula 1. I think he is good enough. The Formula 2 champion, Formula E champion. I think if ever the time comes he gets to sub in for Hamilton or Russell, I think he'd be a pretty good stand-in. But for Pascal Wehrlein, who is a Formula 1 flop, albeit with Sauber and Manor where there wasn't maybe much expectation anyway, I think it's a bit unfair. It wasn't a huge, massive incident or anything. It's just a typical motorsport crash. Two cars hit each other. For Pascal Wehrlein to come out and say he shouldn't be in F1, it's a bit harsh, because I'm pretty sure we've seen Pascal Wehrlein defend the places pretty hard, and I'm fairly certain the Porsches have caused the most contact in the last couple of years of Formula E. So maybe Wehrlein shouldn't be calling people out for that. The other one was that when Stoffel Vandoorne won the championship, it was literally the next day articles were coming out calling him a Formula 1 flop. Really unfair not to focus on him being the Formula E champion and doing a fantastic job. And honestly, I'd even argue with Formula 1 flop. He joined McLaren at the wrong time. He was never really given the best platform to succeed. I think he was okay and should have probably been given more of a chance. I think he's a fantastic driver who did a fantastic job in Formula E this year and deserves to be champion. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say on Formula E. Stick around, because my reaction video to my predictions is coming out soon. It's going to be entertaining. So yeah, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.